GUNDAY, GUNDAY. What's going on, everyone? Back again with another episode of Stuff and Things. I'm out here at the private range today and there's a high wind advisory, so I apologize in advance if the audio gets a little messed up during this episode. Today should be a pretty fun one because we are taking a look at the Kel-Tec Sub 2000. Right off the bat, if you've never seen or heard of this thing, you're probably wondering what the hell is that? Believe it or not, this thing is actually a folding semi-automatic rifle chambered in 9mm. Kel-Tec is definitely the company known for making really strange guns like this. They're actually the maker of the KSG 12-gauge shotgun that you might have seen in a video in the past. There are a lot of different versions of the Sub 2000 and this one happens to be the Gen 2. There's so many unique things about these rifles, one being that they're chambered in pistol calibers and they accept handgun magazines. There's a Smith & Wesson version, a Beretta version, and of course I have the Glock version. Now out of the different Glock magazines that these can accept, I have the version that accepts the Glock 19, which happens to be my go-to overall handgun. Now the most unique thing about these rifles, and definitely the main selling point, is that the barrel can rotate upwards, bringing the package down to 16¼ by 7 inches. That makes this thing perfect to throw in a backpack, inside of a coat. It's compact and lightweight. Basically, it's the easiest way to carry a rifle wherever you need one. I'm using the term rifle pretty loosely because this thing does fold up, it's really lightweight, and shoots a pistol caliber. This is technically considered a sub-rifle. The main intent of the Sub 2000 is actually to complement a handgun. Since this is the Glock 19 version, it uses the same mags and the same ammo interchangeably. I've had this gun for a couple of weeks now and I've only put 50 rounds through it, so let's go shoot it and I'll come back with my first mag impression. Alright, first mag through the Sub 2000, I decided to go with a 30 rounder to give me the best impression possible. The first thing I noticed right off the bat, and you might have noticed it too, I wasn't wearing electric ear pro like I normally do. The reason for that being, check out what happens when you're wearing them. As you can see, you gotta get really low on these sights. You have to have your cheekbone right up against this buffer tube, and when you're wearing big ear pro like this, it gets in the way. It's a little hard to tell, and I never really noticed this until I first shot the gun, but you really gotta have your cheek right up against this. Speaking of having your face so close to this is actually a tube cover by Tactical, and I also have their little grommet on the charging handle because the way this comes out of the box, it's kind of sharp. But anyway, I'm not going to chalk that up as a complete loss. I did have foam earplugs, so I can still shoot this thing pretty comfortably with those in. The sight picture on this is also something that's a little bit funny to me, but that can be changed as well. This thing is obviously light and super maneuverable, so it is fun to shoot. There is no gas system on this. It is a blowback design, which adds a little bit more recoil than you might think. I really wasn't expecting this to be hitting my shoulder that hard, but I'm wearing a jacket and a hoodie, so it's not that bad. The entire gun is pretty much polymer, including the buttstock. If I'm shooting this with just a t-shirt on, I think the cutout here where the front sight post goes when it's folded up, that might hurt your shoulder after a little while. The stock is also adjustable, but since I have the buffer tube sleeve on here, it has to be all the way out. Ergonomics wise, the grip is a little bit strange. As you can see, my pinky definitely does not have anything to hold on to there. With the bigger magazine, that's no problem. But the plus side to a short grip like that is that you can use regular Glock 19 mags. I'm really a big fan of how slim the handguard is. Up front, I also have a Magpul AFG angled foregrip. The way I like to shoot rifles may look a little bit different from what you're used to. I like to shoulder things deep in my pocket and then use a thumb overgrip while extending out as far as possible. The angled foregrip allows me to reach out as far as possible and then index my hand, that way I'm not touching the barrel by accident. Just an inch forward there and I'm going to be singeing my fingers if I'm putting a lot of rounds through this. My initial impressions with the folding, I mean, come on man, that's pretty damn cool. Since a majority of this gun is polymer and it folds like that, you would think accuracy wouldn't be that great, but I was shooting at about 30-35 yards there, no problem at all. Now it's time to take this thing out to distance, see how I can perform at about 100 yards, and then I might as well shoot the rest of the ammo that I brought with me today. Alright, finally got some more trigger time on the Kel-Tec Sub 2000. Normally for these Sunday GUNDAY videos, I'll stop after 100 rounds. I actually shot 150 today because I was having a lot of fun shooting it. I started off with the distance shooting at about 100 yards. I have to say I'm not really impressed with it out that far. If I'm comparing this to another gun, sort of in its category, I'd go up against the Vector. In that video, I was up here shooting at 100 yards, hitting steel no problem at all. That thing is super accurate. Granted, the recoil system is completely different. It had a red dot on it, but still, with this long barrel, I was expecting it to be a little bit more accurate. To be completely honest with you, I think a lot of it was actually my fault. I'm really not a fan of this sight picture. It's kind of funky, but that could easily be corrected with a red dot. The only problem about mounting a red dot on the top here is that you're gonna lose the ability to fold it up and have it really compact like this, unless you go and get one of the optics and swivel mounts that will work with this, where the red dot actually swings out of the way so you can still fold it. So not a big fan of the accuracy at distance, but you gotta remember what this thing is designed for. Ergonomic wise, I kinda got used to having my cheek down really close to the buffer tube. Since the gun is so small and light, having it that close to your face with all of the action going on right here, even with the heavier recoil and the blowback design, it kinda makes the gun shooting a little bit more intense than you would think it would be. I actually kinda like that. When you pull the trigger, it's like a toddler punching you in the shoulder repeatedly. Like I said after the first mag, wearing a t-shirt, it might not be that comfortable, but jacket and hoodie on, it's no problem. Did I mention this barrel is threaded for a suppressor? That's pretty cool too. Now speaking of pulling the trigger, let's talk about that. This trigger is awkward. I'm not really sure of another way to describe it. As you can see, the trigger is plastic and it's got this like hard sweeping hook. Now with the pull of this thing, there's definitely more to be desired. It's definitely a hard trigger pull, springy, kind of mushy, some people might say. As you can see, I'm pulling the trigger here and it's getting really close to the back of the trigger guard. You never really know where it's gonna break. And right there where the trigger breaks, it's all the way back up against the frame of the gun. The reset as I let it back out. Keep going. Oh, there it was. The reset is out pretty far. You can't hear it that well and you can't feel it that well either. And then you're back into the same mushy, springy take up all the way back to the frame where it eventually breaks. Now when I first picked up this gun and shot it, I was like, wow, that trigger is complete trash. That could really be improved. But then it got me thinking. This gun is relatively inexpensive. It's designed to complement a handgun. Could the trigger be improved? Yeah, absolutely. They're actually drop-in trigger kits, but the thing is you gotta take the whole gun apart. I'm not interested in doing that. For what the gun is, basically a backup emergency style rifle that you can throw in a backpack, leave in your car, take anywhere with you, I'm really not gonna knock it that hard for the trigger. If you take your time and practice with it, you can be pretty accurate. This gun was designed for a specific purpose, and as long as you remember that while you're shooting it and thinking about your opinions on it, I think it's definitely worth the relatively cheap price tag. You can pick this up cheaper than a Glock 19. And with the coolness factor, how it folds up and everything, it's definitely a cool gun to have in my collection. So that is all for my thoughts on the Kel-Tec Sub 2000. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. The days are getting shorter, the weather's getting colder, but I'm still gonna try to bring you guys as many Sunday GUNDAYs as possible. If you like them and you appreciate what I'm doing here, please leave a like on this video. Also, if you're new to this channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week. That's gonna be all for today. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.